You know what's super interesting about that is the ammo. I think is the only ammo that's found in raid for a
It's
while.
good though.
The AP
It's
rounds.
good. I like it.
I'm pretty sure they're like, yeah, I like it too. It's $10,000 per
Yeah,
round. I want to say the AP
I think so.
round.
Yeah, I like
I
it. I love
love it. I
that.
want to see where. Yeah, I want to see where it goes. I'm like super interested in how that's
Yeah,
going
because
to
that's
play
like
out.
market-based balancing. There's no
Yes, I want
trader
to see
floor.
more of
Exactly.
that.
There's no trader floor on
Yes,
this thing. Like the market will just decide what the right price is for the what's the word? The effectiveness of the weapon,
yes,
which is
and
brilliant.
apparently it's it's pretty high up
Yeah.
there. But the other thing. Welcome to Scav Talk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continuing development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussion. I'm one of your hosts, Church,
And I'm your other host, GigaBeef.
and welcome to the show. Cool.
All right.
So yeah, dude, there's been tons and tons of updates, and I call them shadow patches. Ooh.
The shadow patch.
What are your thoughts on that? How they don't really post patch notes when they do these changes?
It's kind of it's interesting. I kind of see where they're coming from because they've always said the whole time that they like people to figure out the game on their own. They don't want to just kind of spoon feed everybody
Right.
everything. And you know, if they change a location or they change something, they want people to kind of like figure it out. I think it's like when they added various bits and pieces throughout time, like you know, there's random key cards that appear and then people have to figure out where they go and all this kind of thing. I do kind of
Mhm.
get that, but apparently they don't really even like the wiki that much. But like the game would be kind of
Really?
impossible without it. Like, can you imagine doing the quest without the wiki? Like, I still use them now. So I'm not really sure. I don't know. I kind of I'm torn on it, to be honest. I think I'm probably more in the favor of getting more information, especially around balancing. I don't mind them doing things like cultists, adding key cards, you know, adding stuff to the map,
Sure.
that kind of thing. That's fine, and we can explore that ourselves. But like the hidden away stuff, it's going to come out anyway, and I think it just like obfuscates things, and it's just kind of it's not hidden in an entertaining way. It's hidden in a frustrating way, and so I think there's a
Yeah.
difference between those two those two sides. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
No, I kind of agree with exactly what you're saying. I mean, especially that it seems to me that the information that other people get, I don't know, other news sources, I would say, it's almost like gate kept, like they won't reveal how they get the information, you know?
Yeah.
Which I mean, I understand in a sense, you know what I mean? But I would just like to get the raw information myself, not someone's interpretation, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because people kind of just have to like pass through the various bits and pieces, or you know, you have like no food and those
Right.
guys looking into the game files and trying to figure out what they've done and stuff.
Which I totally appreciate everything they do. Like I'm not hating on them for that, but I wish BSG would have their own little patch notes with information.
Yeah,
Because I've heard other streamers saying changes, and I was like, wait, they did that? And I would like had to like double check what they said, you know. So it's like because it's like information just being passed around through multiple different sources. So
yeah. I think that's kind of how they like it in some ways. I do like see, that's the thing. Like in certain circumstances, it's okay, and in other cases, I don't like it. I think that's the tricky part. It's just that things like the barter trades, I can almost think like, yeah, you know, you could get away with having that just being like, oh, it's like word of mouth, you know, the word on the street, that kind of thing. It's like if you look through the skills, there's some skills that are unused at the moment. I can't remember which one. There's there one. It's like a trader one which says like, oh, you get you get the trading news before anybody else, something like that, which is like not implemented. I feel like they want to promote this kind of thing where like stuff will change and people have to kind of like figure out through word of mouth because it's like a post-apocalyptic, you know, wasteland and this information is not freely available. I can kind of see where they're coming from with it, but it's
yeah,
pretty strange. It's kind of frustrating, especially if, and again, this is like, I could talk for endlessly about this, but they kind of like conflate the whole like it's a beta versus like, oh, it's a released game and you're playing it like the released game. It's kind of I don't know if those two things are compatible. You know, it's like, oh, if it's a beta, then surely we should just be told everything so we can go and test this stuff. I don't know. They act sometimes like it's
yeah.
released. This is what I always argue, that they act like it's released half the time.
It's tricky for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I would just prefer it. I mean, you played though too. You know how they have like the huge patch notes, right?
Yeah,
And it's like everyone goes through and they read the patch notes and they can like decipher like, oh, I think this is going to be really good, or like, oh, they changed this. I can now prepare for how the games can change. I can't think of an example, but there was something going around, and it was like, let's say for example, someone started a rumor like, oh, they nerf strength. You can't jump us out anymore, and then it's like, did that really happen, or is that just something you said, and then it just gets passed down, you know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff that kinda bothers me, like, I just want the raw
yeah. I
information, but
remember
anyways.
like back in the day, just like the dota patch would come out, right, and you just like sit there. Or be like on the train or like in your living room, or whatever, and you'd like read through, just like
Yeah.
scroll through like reams and reams and reams and reams, because it's like, it's crazy. It's like 115 heroes or something. You have to
Yeah.
read through all of them. So, but it was good, and like trying to pick out the big changes out of that
Mhm.
was always in it was yeah, it was always very interesting. But I guess that's the difference between like a competitive game and like Tarkov's not actually it's not really an esporty type game. I know they said they're going to
Right,
bring
right,
arena out at some point, but it's not really an esport. And so I guess that's kind of the difference. It's like it's more of an experience, and they want it to be more of an experience than people min maxing this, that, and the other. I think that's kind of why they started doing
right.
like the changes up of the meta and for meta builds and things as well, because they want people to kind of experiment and try stuff and do different things, and they want variety, which I actually think this patch has done quite well so far. So
Well, moving on, do you wanna talk about some of the hideout changes they added?
yeah, I think so, because I'm a big hideout guy. I think like the hideout becomes kind of more important the less time you get to play, because it kind of like supplements the raids that you do. And even if
Mhm.
you're kind of like just, I mean, everybody's kind of still quite homebound in general because of all the restrictions and stuff. And so even if you're doing other things, you can like pop back and forth and like run stuff in the hideout, and it only takes a few seconds to do it. It's kind of mobile game like, but I don't know, I quite like it. Maybe it's just kind of like slightly addictive personality or something, which see the ruble count go up and doing the various crafts. But I think it's cool. I think a lot of the crafts don't do a huge amount. Would be my kind of like first take on it. I mean, it's nice that you can do stuff like crafting the grenade case and that kind of thing, but
Right.
I don't know. Like, to me, unless you can craft that stuff and then kind of make money out of it, then no one's really going to do it unless they just specifically want a grenade case. And it's because that's the thing, right? If it's cheaper to buy the bits, people will then sell them on the flea. So it's either profitable, or you just buy one off a flea because it's just not worth investing the time in doing it.
Yeah.
And the only other flip side to that is if it's stuck to like a higher trader level. Um,
Mhm.
so that's quite interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. I think the grenade case is random. Is the way that I would say. I'd say,
In terms of profitability?
yeah. I'm just not sure if I
Or
would.
you
Yeah, I'm
mean
just not sure if I would craft one. I don't know. Would you craft one?
I got one for request and I sold it,
Yeah. So
so,
I,
I mean,
some of them are kind of like not that. Some of them are kind of not that useful. I don't think necessarily. It hasn't changed up what I've been doing. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
It's not really changed up what I've been doing. I don't know. Like maybe I've got kind of like a slightly different view on it, but it's kind of, I always try to be doing the most economic craft at any time, and then I just buy
Mhm.
whatever else I need using the money, because I think like one thing that people really this is kind of going off the topic of what we wanted to talk about really with this, but like
It's fine.
people don't people don't appreciate kind of the you spend, what's it, opportunity cost, right? You spend time doing one thing in place of doing another, and you can only do one craft at a time when you're not
Right,
elite
right.
crafting. And so if you're not doing the most profitable craft because you're like, oh well, I'm making these bullets because I want to run them in raid, if it if it's not the most profitable craft to do in that sense, then you should just buy them off the flea, right? Well, you should just buy everything off the flea except for the most profitable craft, because overall you're going to make more money doing it that way. I know, I think a lot of people like mistake that, and like the finding raid thing is useful for selling those things on the flea market, and then for finishing quests, especially if there's quest items available in the hideout. But it's like, I use, well, until this is actually one that they've just moved, right, which is the 7N31 for 9 mil. They've moved that to Prapor 4. I actually managed to buy a
Mhm.
bunch because I was around all day, and I waited and set a timer for the stupid trader refresh. It literally sells out in like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And I bought
Yeah.
like 4 rotations worth of it before it moved. But I'm not going to go and I wouldn't have gone and crafted it because, like, unless I literally can't buy it from the trader, I won't go and craft it because it's just better to do wires and then to go and buy it if you can from the trader. I suppose it gives you the opportunity to make this stuff if you don't have the trader, you can actually create it. I guess
Right.
that's sort of the value, I
Or
suppose.
even if you can't buy the stock replenish, then you could still make it,
Yeah,
at least to have the ammo.
yeah,
But even then, you probably I don't it'd just be one of the things, is it cheaper to craft it or is it just cheaper to buy it? Which
yeah.
I
I'm
don't
actually
know
not
the
sure.
answer to that.
I mean, so that's I guess that's the first one. It's not really Hideout, but it's changes, right? It's like, yeah, 7N31.
Mhm.
Now it's Prapor 4. I think everybody was using it in the Vector. It's very, very good. And now it's even if you have the trader, it's now, I think it's like 1,130 or something per round from Prapor, which is punchy. So you've always been able to make that in the Hideout. So maybe if maybe it's worth it now. I'm not actually sure. I haven't actually done the math.
I mean, I figured it's probably not because it's, like, nails and what is it, wires,
Yeah,
and let's say, like, blue gunpowder and something else. I don't
yeah,
know.
some expensive stuff. So maybe want to have a
Yeah.
look at. But like, yeah, I mean, the other things like being able to create certain like shotgun shells. I
Mhm.
Again, like, I just don't see the need for it. Like being able to craft super, or whatever they're called, super performance shells,
Mhm.
which I think are quite cheap anyway. But does anybody really use them? I'm not sure that craft
I
was
I
necessary.
did use them for killing scav I mean, it's very specific, but killing scavs on shoreline headshots.
Ah, yes.
'Cause I got that peacekeeper quest, so I was like I looked up on the wiki, "What's the most accurate, shell?" And then it was Superform. It's like, "Oh, great." And then I just went and bought it off the flea market because
Yeah.
everyone's selling them now, so it kinda worked out for me, but I'm sure that's, like, the only niche,
Yeah.
scenario.
And it's like, are you gonna make them? You're just gonna craft them. Sorry, buy them. It's just
Right.
very strange.
So
It's very
but I
strange.
mean, at the end of the day, if you're making ruples in the hideout, then I guess whatever makes money works, I don't know.
Yeah,
Obviously, you wanna min-max, but, if someone makes money, I guess that's a good thing.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, what else do we have on the list? We had the GM count,
Yes.
which you can now make, but it has no
What do you
use.
that's I was wondering, do you think maybe that's a future update? Because why would you need to craft a found in raid DM count? Because I looked at the barters, and I think previously the only barter was like a M1A drum mag, and then they changed the drum mag for the M4, the P mag, the rounded one. It used to be 2 circuit boards, now it's 2 circuit boards and 1 DM count as well.
Yeah. So they're kind of adding more like into relationships between the barters. But I think, does that make it worth it now? I haven't actually looked at the 60s for the M4, but I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't know whether it's necessarily for craft, but there is like a
Yeah.
radiation type aspect to the game. I think there's a UI element for it, isn't there?
Mhm.
And so
You're
I
right.
don't know whether that's a sign that it's coming sooner rather than later, that you might actually want to take one with you. Maybe Streets has got something bad that's happened, um and there's
Yeah,
some
I
kind of like
wonder.
radiation source on Streets that you have to, and maybe it moves around or something. You have to be careful about where you are, otherwise you might get radiation poisoning and die. Which would be that would be
Yeah.
particularly brutal. So I don't know, maybe it points towards that. I mean, I hope that it's not just like more barter stuff, because the barters were okay, but I think people do the ones that are valuable, and then a lot of them are just rubbish. Um,
Mhm.
Especially like my ADAR trade. No, they ruined,
RIP.
they ruined the ADAR. They ruined the ADAR. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, man. One wrecked battery, and then now you have to get 2 chainlets as well. Like, it's just wrecked. Have you seen, actually? Sorry, I was keep like jumping around all over the place, but
Fun.
ADARs are now like 30K.
On the
Yeah,
flea? Or with the barter?
no, like on the flea, because people can't barter for them anymore, so you have to go and buy them. So it's forced the prices of everything up,
Oh, because
because people were just
you
used to
can buy
trade
them
them.
at low level.
Yeah, and so
There's no trader unlock at low
and
level.
you wouldn't And yeah, no one's doing the barter anymore. So if you want an ADAR, like it's still way cheaper than an M4, right?
Mm,
But people just buy they just buy the battery for 13K or something and then get an ADAR with it. But now you can't do
right.
this, and so it's
Interesting.
forced the prices of all ADARs up because people really like using the ADARs. I think they're okay. I actually am slightly coming around to them, to be honest. But especially like early wipe. But
Mhm.
no, it's interesting. It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've changed that one. What else is different? What else do they change in the hideout that you've noticed?
Did you notice, when speaking of ammo, that they increase the amount of ammo you get? Like, the input is more and the output is more.
Oh, I didn't actually
Did
notice
you
that.
notice that?
No.
'Cause I'm, like, 90% sure, like, I'm trying to think, like, definitely, what is it? APC 613, like, 6.3, what is that? The class 3 9 millimeter penetrator,
AP63, yeah,
bullet.
yeah.
Yeah. That one, I can't remember. I think it used to be, like, you get 120, 150? Definitely 7 and 31, that craft. It wasn't 300 rounds.
See,
Now it's
it's
300.
funny because that's interesting. I didn't actually notice that because as I said, I've just literally like it's quite funny because I've just gone back to crafting wires the whole time. But I was making
Mhm,
AP63 for a while, and I think it was 200 when I was doing it. I don't know what it is
mhm.
now.
Yeah, I think it was 100 and now it's 200.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
So that's an interesting one. I think one of the biggest changes that they have made that is
Mhm.
interesting that they've done it now is the changing of the level 1 modules. I think this is
Yeah.
fascinating. I kind of like it. I sort of see where they were going. Obviously, the car battery was probably a bit much. I think people probably agreed with that. I'm sure you do too. I definitely did because finding car batteries is like hard, right? It's hard. Super RNG. They're very rare. I mean, there's 250K now because they're used for Therapist Quest. You need
Mhm.
5, and I know you can get a tank battery for it and buy it off the flea and whatever, but it's like over 1 million rubles. So to actually find the car battery is a real pain. Um, I don't mind the other ones. I think the other ones are okay. Like the spark plug thing is all right. Actually, I'm really struggling. I actually have the spark plug quest still now because I'm just stuck for spark plugs. I think I've got half of them, maybe like 5 of them out of 8, but like 8 spark plugs. I don't see spark plugs that often. But yeah, the other ones like ES lamps, DVD drives, whatever. Like I think that's kind of okay. You have to go out and like play a bit to go and get some stuff. Um,
But yeah, it made sense because I think it was, like, the TV was, like, the next looking upgrade, I wanna say. So, like, it made sense, like, ES like, never really had it used. So, like, I've noticed DVD drives have gone up in price a little bit, like, they're, like, 10K, 11K on average, and I think ESLint went up, like 9K on the flea market,
yeah, I don't know whether
which is good.
this one's new, but like, is this wipe? I'm kind of in a I'm kind of like pushing my stuff a bit more than I would normally, and been buying a lot of
Mhm.
tri-zips. And there's a trade for the tri-zips with ES lamps that I think it's probably been in there for ages. You
Oh,
need 4 of
yeah.
them for tri-zip,
Mhm.
but I've been doing that one a lot, so that's kind of what I'm using them for, which is decent.
Yeah, I think too, they changed, like, the heat, what is it, heating? They changed, like, I think you need, like, a box of matches for, like, the first one, and then
Mm,
you need, like, defuel and a bunch of matches for, like, the next one, which I just, like, the day before they did the shadow nerf or shadow patch or
yeah.
whatever, I upgraded my heating to 3, so I was, like, good on all the changes they did. I didn't have to, like, get buy any crazy stuff because prices went up for everything.
I think you mentioned that the Bitcoin farm gives less Bitcoin per hour. I actually haven't looked at this in too much detail yet. Like how big a change actually is that? Do you know?
What is that?
With Bitcoin farm, did they
Oh,
change that?
it's like they doubled the requirements to start it up.
Okay,
Like, you're good. Me, on the other hand, I don't have a Bitcoin farm, so I'm probably not gonna do
is
it
it
for a
just level
while
one?
until.
I did see the
Yeah.
solar power one. I did see the solar power one
Yeah,
because somebody was complaining, I think, on Reddit about the solar power one, saying that like now you need so many things
you need a lot.
that
Really expensive.
yeah, that you're actually better off just not bothering upgrading it and just buying more fuel because it was going to take like 300 days to get your money back, and a wipe is normally only like 6 or 7 months at most, and so there's literally no way to actually make it work. The only thing would be like if you're absolutely filthy rich, right, and you want the hideout to be maxed, and you just can't be bothered putting fuel in the canisters. At which point, well, I guess you still want to run it for bitcoins, but I don't know. It's that seems a bit of a crazy thing, but yeah, they.
Well, I think too the other. Sorry, go
No, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, yeah, they want more money sinks in the game, so I guess that's kind of helps.
I think too the Bitcoin farm level 3 requires the solar power, I want to say. So I think that's also why they did that change
Ah,
because
you might be
they
right, actually.
are reacting to the Bitcoin price,
Mm.
and graphics cards market going crazy right now.
Yeah,
So
I think when I last checked, they're at like 700K each on graphics
I sold
cards,
one for 700.
which is
Yeah,
pretty insane.
it's crazy.
I mean, yeah, I was like, because I've been tempted just to keep buying them. I've been buying them for a while, and then I stopped because I was doing other stuff, and I kind of ran out of money. But I bought 19 on the way up, and then obviously I can't use. I still have 9 just like sat around at the moment.
Hmm.
But I had 10 just like ready to just like just shove into the machine straight away, which I bought like 200 or something, 150 to 200K. And then I watched them carry on going up, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I want to buy the rest, so I should probably have bought more." I don't know where they're going to go, honestly. With the prices of Bitcoin, they could easily go like to a mil, 1.2,
Yeah.
1.3 each. I think. I don't know. We're going to have to see. It's nuts. As more people get there, though, people need a lot of them. Like people want to fill it, right? So if you get to level 3, everyone's going to have 50. That's a lot. There's a lot of GPUs.
Yeah. One of the things that came to my mind is with regards to the hideout. I feel like this wipe, I've been very like not the fastest on upgrading my hideout,
Mm,
but like kind of in the middle. Because I feel like I've been paying pretty deep premiums for like the requirements to upgrade stuff.
yeah.
And I feel like you, on the other hand, because you had your Bitcoin farm like last week or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
you were like an early adopter, and now it's like really paying off for you.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's like kind of that weird thing with the hideout, like the faster you can like rush it. I guess that's true for a lot of things in Tarkov. Like you're just gonna have
Yeah.
um, not to pay as much money. Whereas like if you're in the middle, you're probably gonna be paying the most. And then if you're like the very like let's say you join like a month later and you brand new account, like all this level 1 requirements, like spark plugs are gonna be like very minimum vendor price that you could sell it for. Like you're gonna like hardly pay anything for like the low level stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how the hideout works in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, it really does incentivize you to kind of like push through and do it. I mean, that's the issue. I'm just like gated on quests and levels just because I've been able to tinker around with the hideout because I'm here all the time. But
Hmm.
with various things going on, I'm like not able to actually not play like as much as I would like. And so I'm kind of
Yeah.
like I think I'm now level 29. So I'm probably quite far behind people on levels. Like my hideout's like way further ahead than my level would suggest. So I'm stuck just before getting to like level 3 mechanic, for example, which is a real like gatekeeper for the rest of progression on that stuff, which is a real pain.
Are you like, I can't play Tarkov, but I can feed the baby and click on the hideout? Is that your strategy?
Kinda, right? Kinda, because like to sit down and play a full raid of Tarkov takes a good while.
Yeah,
Whereas the hideout like
yeah,
hardly takes any time, right? You can just like you can pop in 30 seconds, like click a few things, bam, 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 smash some stuff back in, and that's it. Or put a few
yeah.
things up on the flea, or just like wait for until you've got 5 sets of things and then sell them all at once, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm very economically focused, as you probably know. So it's kind of like the metagaming in and of itself of just like making money in Tarkov's kind of entertaining to me. But
But it's nice, right? Because then you can, still feel like you're not, "Oh, I'm not playing Tarkov," I'm not, like, behind in progression. Like, you have this money progression
yeah,
that's still covered,
yeah, exactly. And then
which is
when
nice.
you go
Or
back
even
into
quests.
raid, there's what? Sorry, there's
Uh-huh.
quests.
Or even, like, I was gonna say some of the
Hmm.
quests, you can craft items for quests.
Yeah, like exactly that actually. So like I've made all of the Intel Center Level 2 stuff already
Mhm.
for which ones are they? Like import and a few of the other really annoying ones. You need like VPX,
Yeah.
those like COF DM radios and that kind of thing. Like I've made all of those already,
Mhm.
just like in the background because I had it like 8 days or 9 days ago, and some of them take like 48 hours to do. But I've just like slowly bought the bits and just made them all, and just I've got them sat in bags, so they're just like ready to go, which is kind of cool. But it means like when you kick it off into raid as well. You're just like, all right, let's go. Let's just like, let's bring a Vector. Let's bring 731. Let's do it, which is nice. It's a good feeling. It's good to be like that. I quite like that because I have to sort of get myself away from being kind of like in the horde mode. I'm more into kind of like let's go Chad mode, which is good for me. It's good for my mental state when I'm playing raids. Okay, so what else have they done? We spoke about the Ada already. I guess the Vector.
What do you think about the Vector?
I've been using the Vector. This week. I would like to use it more. It's very good. I like it a lot. I think it's very satisfying. And
yeah.
I know I mentioned to you before, but like my video tomorrow is going to be on the Vector, and it's just like one of the things that's so funny about it is it's actually so satisfying just to shoot. Like it feels great. It actually feels great. Like they've got the sounds down like so well.
Yeah.
It feels like when it connects, it's just like it's like feels powerful to use, and it's got such little recoil. It's insane. Like you basically mod it with like 15K's worth of stuff, and then it shoots like a laser. It's insane. Like it shoots like a laser anyway, but you can. I think the one I've been using is like you just have like the tack on front, and then any vertical that gives you ergo, and then you've got like 26 recoil and it's like 70 something ergonomics, and you hardly spend anything on it. I'm not surprised that they've made it more expensive multiple times because it's so good. Like 50K was way too cheap, and the mags are so cheap as well. I'm to be clear, I'm talking specifically about the 9mm one.
Yes.
Because the 45 one, I haven't tried it, but I've looked at it and I don't really like it that much because you can only get 2 different mags for it. One which has got 13 shots, which is like, and the other one which is like 80K on the flea, and I can't buy them from. I think it's Mechanic because I think you need Mechanic 3 for them, and I can't buy them.
Well, don't worry because you can only buy 3 per reset of the 30 rounders for the 45 Vector.
Okay, fine.
So
even still, like you need that for sure. Like this thing's, what is it, 1100 RPM?
You need a lot of mags.
1100. Like it's insane. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think like 1100. Because I was looking at the other one, right? Like obviously you can run the 50 rounder for the 9mm Glock, which is kind of the primo, but they've taken the ergo down to -18 now, which is absolutely brutal. It still is kind of okay, I think, if you ergo it up with the foregrip and stuff. But
yeah,
the 33 rounders are actually still kind of okay because the fire rate's 900 on, or was it 950?
950.
I think it's 950.
Yeah.
But it's not actually that much more than like an M4 or an HK, like an HK at 850 versus this thing at 950. And an M4 or an HK firing 30 rounders is actually fine. Right? Obviously 60 rounds are better, but firing 30 rounders out of an M4 and HK is okay. And having 33 rounds with 950 RPM is actually very close. It's kind of the same. Like it's only a little bit less. Like you get, when I was looking at it before, you get like 2 seconds. You just get over 2 seconds of like full sustained fire on it, which is okay. Like that's fine. I can deal with that. Whereas the other one, like 30 rounds maybe, and at 1100, like it's a bit nuts. I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't used it yet.
Well, I mean, it also has more recoil. I think it's like in the 30s.
That's true, actually.
I'm not even sure if you can get it below 30 with mods.
That's true. That's a very good point.
And it's definitely different. I mean, I test them both out, but you said the 9mm Vector is really good.
Yes.
Do you think it's overpowered? Because I kind of feel like it's overpowered.
It was definitely overpowered at 50K.
For sure.
That's for sure. I think it probably should still be more expensive, personally. I think 70K. The issue is, right, is that like they have to balance these things for base plus mods, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And 70K, I don't know, like 70K for the base gun that rips people without having to add anything. And you add, the tack on front thing is like the muzzle brake is like $64 or something. And you can add any foregrip and then it's perfectly usable for like 10 grand. It's pretty nuts. It feels a bit like, I don't know, but the thing again, like, then again, like it is an SMG and it uses 9mm ammo. Like 7N31 is not like it's really expensive, and it's kind of the thing that people have been talking about for ages ever since it was released. 7N31 is really good, blah blah blah. Because like AP63 is kind of crappy, right, as far as ammo goes. I've tried using 6.3 in its
Yeah.
various forms across MP5s and across a few different other guns for a long time, and 6.3 is always kind of like, you have to really pick your battles. Like I stopped using it in the second wipe that I played because I was just like, this thing's let me down too many times. And I've kind of come back to it. Like you kind of have to know how to play around it, and it's kind of fun if you do. And I think with the MP5 SD, that kind of like revitalized my love for that stuff, because it's just like a headshot cannon. But even still, right, 7N31, like everyone said, oh, this is going to change everything, and like it's good. It's good, but I had one bounce off a guy's helmet in interchange when I was using it, right? And that's like that's the top tier round, and it bounced
Yeah.
off of a TC whatever they're called, TC 800 or
2000 or
2000,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a level
Yeah.
4, and that bounced off a guy's skull, and you don't. It's like, yeah, it's sure it's a good round, right? But it's not the best ever, and I think that's kind of solidified in my mind that the Vector is OP so long as you come into the mindset of you kind of have to fire multiple shots at the dude to
Oh
make
yeah,
sure that
for
he's
sure. I
dead. Like
mean,
I tried because I had him completely like by surprise, and he didn't know where I was, and he was like crouching through interchange, and I went doink and bounced it off the back of his head, and then he didn't die, and then I just like full autoed him, but I should have just done that to begin with. So I don't know. I think that's the thing. I do think it's OP. I do think it's still probably OP at 70. Definitely was at 50. I think it probably should be more like 90 to 100, I would say, to get it into a good place.
here's my thing. Um, so level 2 skier is when you unlock
Mm.
it, which is level 15 plus some trader
Yeah.
rep. But why is the super high tech military gun at level 2 trader along with the Vepr VPO 136, the ADAR 215 barter, and the Mossberg shotgun? Like it didn't like I was like, wow, you get this Vector really early, and then I mean, this was like when the patch was fresh,
Yeah.
and then I started watching like streams like Landmark play it, and I saw this, it's like like that just doesn't move at all. And I'm like, oh my god. Like I kind of feel like it needs to be like a tier 4 trader.
Yeah, I wouldn't honestly disagree with that.
Because why would you
Yeah.
ever use any other SMG?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a single reason. I mean, it's the ultimate SMG.
Oh yeah. I actually wouldn't disagree with
I
that.
mean, you just hold mouse one and assuming you have decent ammo,
Yeah, I think the fact that you
Even
can
then,
buy everything so early. It's like TACOM is like Peacekeeper 3, I think, and then that's the gun
what is
itself.
it?
There's the muzzle brake, and then the actual weapon itself is Skier 2, and you can buy AP63 from Peacekeeper like fairly early, and then you can
Mm,
buy all the mags. I think it's there to get people to check it out near the beginning of
that's
the
very
wipe, and then
possible.
it gets bumped
Yeah,
up. That's what I think will
that's
happen,
very
but we will
possible.
see. I agree
Yeah.
with you though, right? Like the Vector is kind of like the most futuristic, modern. Like it doesn't really have its place in Tarkov. It shouldn't be all over the place. Um,
Yeah,
I
it's a
think it's
little
just there to
crazy.
acclimatize people to it. Personally,
That makes sense. I can see that. Speaking of laser beams, do you remember playing a couple patches ago where everyone was running AS Val and VSS?
yes,
So they also buffed the ammo for that gun. I don't know if you saw that.
yes.
And people were freaking out. Meanwhile, I'm here like, "Psh, y'all sleeping on the Vector though." That thing's like the old VSS.
I think the thing about the VSS though, like when it was super super ridiculous, like it was like the
Mhm,
Vector is now, but
mhm.
with 900 RPM, but the bullets do like 60 to 70 damage, and the pen is
Yeah,
like
that's true.
50. Like it was
Yeah.
insane. It was actually
Dude,
insane.
when I found out that SP5 was just like dirt cheap, and then like the next step up was like, twice the price and like 0.2 milliseconds faster TTK. I was like, why am I why am I using this expensive ammo? I was just loading SP5. I was like a VSS gamer, dude, just like naked VSS 20 rounders.
I probably like
I was
AKP7
like,
like dovetail
yeah,
scope on the
yeah,
side. Like it was. I mean,
yeah.
it's a good gun.
That was absolutely busted.
It's a good gun. I actually didn't get on with it that well. I used it like a decent
Mhm.
amount, and it was kind of like okay-ish for me, but I never ended up doing super, super well with it. I don't know. There's something around like I kept getting into longer range engagements and trying to like mortar the
Yeah,
guy
it
with the
has its
bullets.
drawback.
So like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
got its drawbacks, which is fine. But like when you're in a scenario like factory or something where those drawbacks aren't
Mhm.
really relevant, then it just kills everybody. Are you were you referencing the Veritas video,
Yes.
the Valid
Yeah,
Time to Kill? I
I
watched that
was.
a while back, and I understood where he was coming from, and kind of disagreed a bit. Not a
Mhm.
lot, but a bit. Because a lot of his tests, he's just like, oh, look, it's the time to kill, like, with a guy who's like stood like this, and I've got my SP5 in my high rate of fire weapon, and I shoot at the guy. Because a lot of the time, like the fights in Tarkov, I don't know, like, yeah, sometimes they're like that. But part of the the beauty of the high pen rounds is that you
Mhm.
don't have to actually hit them that many times, right? If you're like both at either end of, like, it's a very different scenario being stood in the factory underground section right next to each other doing like ammo testing and saying, oh well, it's 0.2 seconds because the fire rate is so high because you get an extra 3 bullets or something. I feel like it's very different if you're both at either end of like the factory corridor, both peeking around. Sometimes you're hitting each other in the arms. A lot of the time you're not hitting the other guy at all. And I feel like there, like two bullets makes a huge difference personally. Like if
I kinda see what
if
you're
one bullet
saying. Yeah.
doesn't pen and the other guy's does, and you're hitting like, say, like even optimistically, you're hitting like 50% of your shots. That like it increases the time to kill, like it doubles the time to kill to start with. Um, I don't know. I just kind of disagreed with the way that it was. It wasn't realistic. I completely understood his point,
Mhm.
and it made sense. But I was like, I'm not sure if in various contexts if it actually is quite as applicable. Is all. Like he was right, but whether it's necessarily as like applicable to a real scenario or all real scenarios, I wasn't so sure. That was just my personal opinion on it, anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think it's always an interesting one because like just knowing that you're going to like guarantee pen somebody is is an interesting thing. Actually, this like one completely random thing that I really wish that they'd change back was the whole like BS versus Igolnik interplay. With the thorax changes, they ruined this, right? Because like both of them take 3
Yes,
shots to the
man.
thorax, and so now both rounds are the same.
Yeah.
The 2 rounds are the same round, and I wish that they'd take it back because I liked having the choice in the past of like having to balance like, oh, Igonic will take 3 hits, but you know that it will kill them in 3, versus
Right.
like, you know, BS is like slightly worse, but it might not pen level 6 or so, or maybe level 5, but it does more damage, and so if it does pen, they will die. And I feel like those trade-offs are kind of better. You know, it's makes you think. I don't like having my choices taken away. I don't think it was necessarily something they actively did. I think it was just a collateral damage of the Thora exchange that they haven't really thought about it anymore. But yeah,
Ever since they did that change where they increased the time to kill, the 545 by 39's got hit the hardest, I feel like, and I just, like, avoid those calibers like the plague because it just like you said, I mean, I think Igolnik is, like, 37 flesh, like, something really low that just, like, if you hit him in the arms and it doesn't hit their chest a couple of times, like, you can really just, like, mag dump somebody and they just feel
you
like
really
they're not
can.
gonna die
Yeah,
because
it's 37. It's 37. I
yeah,
just had a look.
it
So you can hit a
it
guy 3
feels
times, right?
so
And
bad.
you only just kill them. Like it's, you know, you do 74 damage with 2 shots. But that's the issue. BS is 40,
Right.
right?
Which used to be
Which
enough
used to
to
be
two
enough.
tap them.
Exactly.
Right.
Um,
It is like,
which is why like
I agree.
855A1's quite cool, right? Because that's got 45 damage. And so you'll kill scavs in because I don't know, like scavs are annoying, right? You don't want to like be mag dumping scavs. It's a pain. And people talk about it, you know, about like, you know,
Yeah.
the Iron Man scav or like the immortal scav, this kind of thing. And I think this is like partly it. And occasionally people talk about overpen. And I'm just like, no, it's not a thing in Tarkov, it doesn't exist. But you know, if you hit scav in like both arms and then, you know, once in the stomach and then once in the thorax, it can feel like they take a long time to die. If you're using something like 55A1, they die in 2 shots to the thorax, whereas M9M5 is the same. It's only got 40
Mhm.
damage. And
Mhm.
so it'll take 3 hits, and that stuff's expensive, right? It feels more painful when, you know, it's taking, you know, 3,000 rubles to take down, you know, one scav.
Yeah. Well, I guess in some regards, they kinda, like, made it more of a harder choice between M995 or 855A1 and M995
Yeah,
since now
yeah,
right.
that's like the real choice, I think. That's kind of like the real choice because like and the gap is quite stark as well. It's like A501 really cheap for what it does, and pretty good, pretty good. But 995 definitely gets the job done against high level players, but it's like it's going to rinse your wallet, and I quite like that as
Yeah.
a kind of a
Yeah, it's
decision.
a nice little
Mm,
contrast and balance to it, I think.
yeah.
You know Go ahead.
No, I was good. I was good.
Something that I don't just this is random rabbit trail, but it's been bothering me for a while. The fact that the Mosin cannot one tap anymore or like any like high caliber round, that just bugs me. Like if I shoot a hatchet player in the thorax with M80 or LPS with a rifle and he doesn't die, I don't know, that just feels bad, you know? Does
Yeah.
that bother you at all?
Um,
Is it just me?
I think it bothers a lot of people. It doesn't bother me that much, probably for selfish reasons, because I don't really use the Mosin very much, and I don't really
Same.
like it particularly. Um, you can technically still use 7N1 if someone's not wearing any
Right.
armor, in
Yeah.
theory. In theory, because like you
Yeah,
get
but
that
it
small amount of armor reduction, and so they'll be left on like two health if they have like level 4 or something, or even level 3 maybe, because you literally need to reduce 3 damage, I think, to not die. Um, but I don't know, like
I
it,
just
it
felt
kind of
like
makes them pointless. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's like from a balancing perspective, it kind of sucks. But the bolts have always kind of sucked, and they don't really have any place in the meta, so to speak. People use them for kind of the cool factor rather than anything else, because there's really no reason not to use a semi-auto in this game, right? Because given that everything uses the
let's
same ammo.
so from what I understood, again, I started playing when the Mosin could one tap, and that was like one of the guns, the rat gun.
Yeah,
Like people are like, "Hey, I can't make any money. How do I make money?" Oh, go buy a Mosin, load LPS, and one tap a Chad and go lose
yeah,
armor. And then people were like complaining about it, complaining about it, complaining about it, and then they like increased the ergonomics on it. Like the actual time it takes to ADS was
yeah.
like manually tweaked. Like I feel like the Mosin has just been like they kept like smashing the Nerf hammer onto it, and now it's just like completely dead outside of like quests. And like I don't know, it's just like it's just kind of frustrating how they like approach it. Like, okay, now we're gonna add 5 HP to thorax, which in some ways I think is good because increasing the time to kill does make it like increase the skill aspect, which I like, landing your shots and whatever. But at the same time, it's just like sometimes their approach to things just like really bothers me. Like they added 5 and then mess up the 545 by 39 AKs, like that whole nice thing we're talking about the BS and
Yeah.
Agonic choice. And then like it fixed some things, but now like any bolt action or M80 is like completely useless unless you hit him in the head. Because and like you said, why even use a bolt action? Even if it's really dirt cheap, you could just buy a I don't know. Anyways, it's just a rant. It just
I think. Look, I think it's right. I mean, they've at the moment there. I don't think they're really trying to balance the bolts. I don't think the game's really balanced around them. They're just in the
yeah.
game. They are there.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I did like the poor Magnum, that'll do the job
Yeah.
on the new gun. So that that'll smash a guy. What's the top one? 79 pen. I mean, that's absurd. With 115 damage, it's crazy. Have you seen anybody or
Yeah.
or used this new one yet? I haven't.
I've watched a bit. It's pretty
It looks
insane.
pretty
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, I like that. I like
It's
that.
in semi
I mean,
too.
it's really expensive.
It's in semi as well.
Y You know what's super interesting about that is the ammo, I think is the only ammo that's found in raid for a
It's
while.
good though.
The AP
It's
rounds.
good. I like it.
I'm pretty sure they're like yeah, I like it too. It's $10,000 per
Yeah,
round, I wanna say, the
I
AP
think so.
round.
Yeah, I
I
like
I
it. I love
love it. I
that.
wanna see where yeah, I wanna see where it goes. I'm, like, super interested in how that's
Yeah,
gonna
because that's
play
like
out.
market-based balancing. There's no
Yes, I
trade
wanna
of
see
floor.
more of
Exactly.
that.
There's no trade of floor on this
Yes.
thing. Like the market will just decide what the right price is for the um what's the word? The effectiveness of the weapon,
Yes.
which is
And
brilliant.
apparently it's it's pretty high up
Yeah.
there. But the other thing, when I was selling one, I can't say for sure, it was pretty early in wipe, but I wanna say the average price is like 4,000 rupees, and I had 2 of
Hmm.
them. So I listed it for 4,000 rupees, but my fees was like 2,000 rupees,
Oh.
right? But that's like 2 of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that
So it was like 1,000
implies that the
per
trader price for them is quite low, or is set quite low
Yes,
within the game
which I
engine.
wanna next time I get one,
Mm.
I'm gonna list it, try to figure out, like, where the price is at because in some ways, they do have, like, their own like, "Hey, we think this is about valued at this
Yeah.
many rupees," you know?
You know what? The easier
So
way I think to do that is you could just try and
mhm,
sell it to mechanic,
that's
because then
true.
he's
Just buy it and then
yeah,
sell
because
it.
then he's got
Yeah, that's
his kind
true.
of like base price, which I think, oh, what is it like? I can't even remember. Is it like 47%? I think, or
Basically half,
53%? You
yeah.
get like maybe it's like 53% that you get back of the like
Yeah.
in-game price, something like that.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
You could do it that way, I think, as well. Um, but it's interesting. I want to see where it goes. I'm fascinated. There's kind of
Yeah,
like, it's a proper free market on that item,
yeah, I love
because
it.
there's only players
Yeah.
selling it, only players buying it. There's no traders. You can't buy it from level 4 people. Because the thing is, right, even with the stuff where it's like kind like you have lots of people buying it because not everybody's unlocked level 4. Like some people have unlocked level 4 and then they're no longer in the the chain anymore. And so it takes the traders remove demand from the system and make things cheaper, because there's not as much demand, because like as the player base moves through, it's like here's the level 4 boundary, and here's players who move through it, like the number of people who are actually needing to buy from the market slowly decreases over time. So
Mhm,
it
mhm.
messes around with supply and demand, having the traders in the first place. You never
Yeah.
really get an idea. It's like kind of like with the ADAR, right? There's an ADAR trade in there which distorts the market. So it means all ADARs are 20k. Well, you take that trade away, boom, 10k more, right? They're immediately 10k up overnight, because people can't buy them like for 13 anymore. And so only, why would anybody go to the flea um, and sell it for 20 now, when you can't just go and buy it easily? Anyway, it's interesting. We will see. We will see.
Yeah, yeah. I'm super curious to see where that goes. Um, Painkillers, did you see they increase or decrease rather Vaseline from 10 to 6?
Yes. What's your feeling about painkillers?
Um, I mean, if there's like I don't know, dude. That's such a hard question because they've been trying to nerf. I'm a the pre-metter, right? This patch I've been more conservative. I'm starting to get into Golden Star again.
It's quite
Um,
expensive.
but yeah, it is. But just I mean, just being on them, it's just like if you ever get shot in the legs out in the open, like I just don't want to have to deal with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have to like say you got morphine or propofol. That's still like 2 seconds. You got to inject yourself, and then the effect kicks
Hmm.
in, and you can start running. You know, it's like but I feel like they really, screwed over, like, low level players because the standard for use count painkillers,
Yeah.
they, like, drain your hydration, like, -17 or something, like, it's way up there, and they only last, like, a minute,
Yeah.
but I guess you're not supposed to be always using them, I don't know.
Yeah. I think this is the thing. And I've read quite a few different people's opinions on it on Reddit as well, which has
Mhm,
been kind of interesting. Like, I still think that, I mean, the Vaseline and Golden Star thing is weird and bizarre. That they're some of the best painkillers in the game. It's very strange. I
mhm,
don't know why they decided to do that to begin with, and I do hope that they continue to nerf those items, because it literally makes no sense. Um, I just think, like, I think it's good. I think it's a good pathway, because, as you were saying, right, as a pre-meta, and I completely so I am actually kind of weird about pre-medding. Like, I completely get that if you're playing optimally, you should be doing it. I don't really like to, because I don't like the way it makes my screen look. Um,
right,
Particularly, like, it's okay, but I find it's kind of like it grates on me a bit, and I'd rather not. And also, like, it's not really how it's going to end up. I just can't. This painkiller sort of formulation that we have right now is there's no way that this is going to be the way it is at the end. There's just no chance, because
mhm,
yeah, it's going to be addiction, and you're not going to be able to use them all the time. There's going to be more downsides, I imagine. And I think, like, yeah, reducing the effectiveness of Vaseline and Golden Star in particular is something that should be done, and to push people into using things like the morphines and whatnot, but with downsides on them, I think is the way that they should go. And I think one way that they could do this, I mean, especially with the base analgin ones, the four ones, the cheap ones, like,
right,
yeah, they punish you for doing it, but I genuinely think there should be a delay before they kick in. Like, I don't think they should be kind of like a pop and no,
Mhm.
yeah, then you're good, right? Because it's like a mini morphine almost. Um,
Yeah.
I think it should be a good like 30 seconds for the crap ones before they even kick in. Um, and that could be like another differentiator between the various painkillers. It's like, you take a painkiller and then 30 seconds later it's you get the effects. But I think, other people are talking about like interesting stuff about like, could you get like some kind of like adrenaline surge when you get shot in the first place? Like maybe the first time you get shot in the battle, you get an adrenaline surge, and then it gives you a bit of chance to move or whatever. Because that's why people do it, right? And as you said, right, if you get shot in the
Yeah.
leg,
That's kinda I agree with that. I feel like there should be maybe not should, but if the reason why people are doing it is so they can completely avoid a negative effect, maybe the focus shouldn't be on the painkillers, but the effect, like, how could they make it? Because I mean, like you say, you get shot in the leg, you're basically just dead. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's quite nuanced. I don't know, like there's some good opinions on it, and I do think that I'm actually of the opinion that the health system should be made like more hardcore, and I think they've actually gone the wrong
Mhm.
way. And I think it's like from all of the different mechanics, it depends on like what your opinion of how it should be is, but I think that you should be penalized for, and I know it makes it harder for solos, but this is kind of like, I guess, non-selfishly talking about it, because like I am pretty much a solo player, and I still think it's strange that you have the CMS kits and the Surf 12s and can repair your stuff, and I think that they should do it less. I think painkillers probably shouldn't work as well as they do. Like, it should help, but I don't think you should fix everything. You should still limp if you get shot in the leg. Like, that's what somebody was saying on Reddit, which I kind of agreed with actually, was if they don't want people to avoid the game mechanic by permanently being on painkillers, make it so that you can't. Like, make it so that painkillers don't. If your leg is broken, it won't help. You know, I know. I think they could make it more nuanced. I do think they could make it more nuanced. Like, there's a few different mechanics in the game that I would hope that they would change. Like, if your leg gets damaged, maybe you limp, and then with painkiller, it's okay. If it's blacked, you're limping no matter what, painkillers or no painkillers. I would prefer that personally. Things like hydration and energy. Maybe your stamina doesn't go up as fast when your energy and your hydration is lower, rather than it just being like you're either on like 2 hydration and stamina and you're completely fine, or 0 and you're like half dying. Like, they should make it more nuanced, so you're like incentivized to keep your health, and your food and your energy like up near 100 all
Mhm,
the time.
mhm.
This kind of thing. I think it could be more. I think it could be more nuanced, and it is kind of harder in some ways. But if you get shot in the stomach, I just don't think you should be sewing it up, taking an ibuprofen, and just carrying on like nothing happened. I think it's bizarre and weird. I think the game should
Yeah, I
almost
mean,
force you to abort certain raids if you get messed up.
I see where you're going. Yeah, I see where you're going.
Although it would be annoying. It would be kind of annoying.
Yeah. I think the hard part with that is everyone has a different definition of fun, and I wonder what the mass market reaction to that, if they would consider that
I mean,
fun,
people would
and I
hate
don't know
it,
how.
but I'm not sure if Nikita cares about that, which is why I was so surprised that they
Right.
even put the CMS and that kind of thing into the game. I mean, yeah, you can still run on black legs and stuff, so it's kind of okay. But I mean, I think they're eventually going to move away from the arcadiness of it, and they're going to bring a lot of it more into mil simmy type territory. I think it's going to
I
go
hope
that way,
so.
personally.
I would like to play a way more strategic and tactical than arcadey,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
personally.
lot of chatter about movement too, right? I mean, this is slightly off the tangent, but
Mhm,
the 8080 strafe, there's always people talking about that now, about how
mhm.
it's kind of like game breaking because it's so arcadey in there, and some people comparing the movement in Tarkov, which is like almost COD style, to Squad, which is very, very slow, deliberate style of movement, and it would feel bad
Mm,
and it would suck. But even PUBG has more inertia than Tarkov. I don't think they need to
yeah.
go all that way. It can still be kind of like, it can be more dynamic than a game like Squad is. Because that game is designed so that you're like limited on maneuverability, so you can't just be like a one-man machine and just run around killing everybody. It's like it's designed to sort of
Mhm.
limit. It's actually interesting that in lowering individual player skill caps, you end up increasing the tactical overall um, kind of importance. But yeah, but Tarkov's such a an individually focused game. I don't think you can really take it in that direction. And I think people wouldn't like it. It would be kind of it would make a lot of fights kind of boring and make people hold corners even longer and all this kind of stuff. But I do think something should be done about it.
I will say, though, that going more that direction would be way more immersive, For me personally, I would feel that. And one of the things that I recall and is when I first started playing, I was like very slow, very methodical. But I feel like it got me killed a lot of times because on top of like learning everything, like
Yeah.
learning the map, bonds, whatever. And I feel like that's kind of like a noob trap for new players. Is they like there's like all these like mechanics, like you can adjust your crouch, you can like adjust your speed and stuff, and then you go watch like some of the more very high skill players are just like sprinting around corners, jumping, bunny hopping, 80 strafing, spraying, hip firing, and it's like you see. Do you like see any of that with maybe like some of like people in your community? Because I know you like do some new player guides and stuff.
Yeah, it's something that I've not really focused too much on, but I definitely see that, right? It's like, I mean, the new player thing, yeah, as you're saying, right, it's almost impossible to play well as a new player just because you're trying to learn what's going on. There's so much information. There's more controls than most FPSs. Not all, obviously. There's Mill Sims do have a lot of controls as well, but you get more control than your typical kind of like battle royale type game, and just all of the things you need to remember. And the game plays quite differently, especially around like shooting. I mean, I that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make stuff about recourse because like I struggled with shooting for the longest time. And
Hmm.
there's and other people coming from other FPSs find it really tough as well because Tarkov just feels a bit weird, and a lot of people can't really put their finger on why. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be tough for new players, kind of no matter what. But
Right.
I do kind of agree with you because, like, well, you have to. This is the thing, right? You have to play slow, and you have to slowly build up. Like, it's almost like the speed of your character, the speed that you move your character around the map, kind of like is determined by your experience. Right? If you try to like run around as a new player, you'll just die immediately. Um,
Sure.
whereas
Sure.
if you're much slower, like sometimes, yeah, you'll just get like one tapped out of. And this is the thing that this is why new players get frustrated actually and leave because they get one tapped out of nowhere all the time and they don't know where from and they don't know why they've died. And that is a very difficult loop to get out of when you're first playing because you
Mm.
don't get enough feedback to be able to fix the mistakes you're making. And so you end up dying again and again and again in the same way without knowing how to make it stop. Nikita, please make it stop. It's like you're like, I want to play this game and I want to be good, but I don't know how to make the one tap stop, and I don't know where they are, and I don't know the stuff on the map, and etc.
That's
etc.
true.
Which is why I tell everybody to play offline mode and try to learn the maps that way and stuff because like the map knowledge is so critical. But I mean, outside of that, it's kind of once you learn about you move from cover to cover, and in Tarkov the cover
Mhm.
is really really very good, and if you're lying down in the bush, it's actually very difficult for somebody to see you. Like all this kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? You kind of like you learn those things over time. It's like you walk most of the time, run between things, be very slow if you hear somebody but they don't hear you, or you see somebody and they're kind of like in your general area, so that they don't hear you back, and move from cover to cover, that kind of thing. So then that kind of takes you into kind of the average player kind of zone who can just like play the game and gets kind of like half the time they die and half the time they kill somebody and they're sort of slow and methodical. I mean, to be honest, that's kind of how I play most of the time, which is like walk most of the time, move from bits of cover to other bits of cover, and like try to spot people and hear them before they hear me, because it means it's less likely that I'm just going to
Mhm.
get sprayed and killed myself, because I'm definitely not the best shot, as my commenters on YouTube will tell me every time I make a video. But actually, somebody wrote, this guy is the opposite of Shroud. Shroud has all the aim and no brain, and this guy has all the brains and no aim, which I thought was really funny. But
That's pretty clever.
but no, look, it's tough. I think Tarkov is a noob trap. I agree with you. Like coming full circle around to what you were saying, it's the whole game is a
Mhm.
noob trap at the beginning, just because it's just so difficult and there's so many mechanics to learn and so much map knowledge to get, and then you can't learn the maps in an afternoon. It's like if you go on to Call of Duty, you can probably learn any of the maps in, you play a couple of rounds and you know most of it, whereas EFT is just like, it's just not like that. If you think about, just
Yeah.
before we move on to another point, like if you just think about like the factory area in customs down by the southeast section, like
The forklift spawn.
you could take those couple of buildings, you could
Like,
probably go up to like, you could go to like the far wall. So yeah, like in the southeast, you could take the southeast corner, you could go up to the wall at the edge before you go to the road, and then you could go to like the USEC building and stop there, and that would be a mapping card. It would be a
wait,
fine
what
map,
map?
like on customs, on
Oh,
customs.
custom. I thought you said
Oh no, no,
factory.
like yeah. So I mean, factory's like a map on its own, isn't it? But yeah, if you on customs, if you took like the southeast corner and incorporated everything, including like the USEC building and up to the wall for the road, that would be an adequate COD map. That would actually look very much like, I don't know how much you've played of the, not this COD, but the one that the new Modern Warfare 2 or whatever it was called, the Modern Warfare 2 or I'm just completely lost it with their naming these days. But yeah, and there's the one I think it's called like Hackney Yard, and there's that one looks very much like that, and it's like, yeah, this is it, and you can learn it. You can walk around it in about 30 seconds, and like, okay, there's a warehouse
Yeah, I
here and
get
a
what you're
thing there,
saying.
and blah blah blah, and it looks like that
Yeah.
corner of customs, but like customs is 50 times the size of that one corner, and it just takes a long time to learn. It's hard, right? It's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. It's tough.
It is tough. It is tough. It is tough. But that's that's what we have to help people for. That's what all the vids are about.
Well, I think we covered a lot.
We definitely
I
did.
guess just really quickly, they it's something that they did is they nerfed the mags, like, across the board. They give less ergo, but something that they did that I really like is the small mags give even more ergo
It's
now.
great.
Like, I love that, dude, I love that. 'Cause, like, now it's like I mean, it's probably not gonna be used, but, if I ever wanna run a little meme TX-15 with, like, a 20 rounder or 10 rounder in it, I'll get an extra +5 ergo,
Yeah, I kind of like think it's okay, right? Because like, yeah, people you do use the TX-15 for sniping, and I would
Mhm.
be tempted, to use it for Shooter Born in Heaven or
Right.
something. I used an M4 last time for Shooter Born in Heaven because
Mhm.
the rounds are really quick and it makes it easier to get headshots, and you hit them in the head with M855 and they die. Whereas, so if you could use like a TX-15, you get even more ergonomics, so you can hold the gun up for longer. I know that they've nerfed that, and I don't know how much these new ergo changes really will make, because apparently it just your stamina gets drained no matter what you do, no matter how high your ergo is. Your arms are just now
It
jelly.
seems to be the case,
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, if they manage to fix that and put it back onto more of like a better like distribution like it was before, then you can definitely see
Yeah.
people doing that and using it for sniping and having 20 rounders on semi. If you're going to get like +8 ergo or something, or +5 ergo, or whatever it is that they end up making it,
Mhm.
it might make people actually use them. I think they should buff them until people
Yeah.
use them. To be honest, it's kind of the way it should be done.
I kinda feel the
Mm,
same, yeah.
yeah.
I know we're short on time, so really quickly, last thing I wanna talk about was, the stamina changes that you mentioned, where your
Yes.
arm drains. People I heard were saying that, "Oh, this is good, it's gonna slow down the game, make it more tactical." I kinda feel the opposite. I feel like I'm better off just running and ADSing when I see someone, because now when I, like, hold a corner, if I have, like, a 50 ergo gun, it just feels like, man, I'm just like, "Oh, I have to reset, make noise," you know what I mean? I just feel
Yeah.
like I'd be better off running. Do you what do you think? I don't know if
I
you've had a chance to play.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really hold that. I don't hold a huge amount of angles, to be honest, and so it doesn't affect me that
Mhm.
much. But I do think that it pushes people towards just like laser sight meta and and like point fire. I do. I agree with everybody who's saying that. To be honest, it's like, yeah, why would you? It's just going to push people away from ADSing, right? Like it doesn't affect anything to do with hip fire, point fire, whatever you want to call it, at all. And so you make that worse. People are going to ADS less, and they're going to choose guns where they don't have to ADS as much, or they're going to choose guns with just like super high ergo that are lightweight, where they're not as affected. But yeah,
Mhm.
I do think it's sort of detrimental to that kind of gameplay style, which is slower, which is sort of what they want to do. So I think it is a little counterintuitive. I agree. I think it's a bit weird.
I even noticed proned ADSing, I was still slowly draining stamina, which I thought I mean, before, anytime you proned, you would, like, never run out of stamina,
Yeah. See, yeah,
at
it's
least to
weird.
my knowledge, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think there was one other mechanic that they changed, and I actually can't, because I did test this, but it didn't seem to work. Is that you get some stamina drain now when you're crouched and walking as well. I don't know whether it's at a certain weight level,
Oh,
because I
interesting.
tried it today randomly
Mhm.
and it didn't do anything. And so I'm actually not 100% sure. But this is something that I think should have been in there for ages, because I do think there should be a downside to be able to walk silently. And I think, crouch walking in like with 40 kilos of equipment is not easy. And
Right.
I think that's okay. And I think it should punish you for trying to, crab around everywhere. Um, and I know it kind of like plays into it's more realistic, but I guess it doesn't, that doesn't really matter most of the time. But it's one of those cases where I think that the realism lends itself to making an interesting choice. Like, how often do people slow walk? Like, pretty rarely, right? It's mostly the crouch walking because there's no downside, and it's quieter. So it's quieter, and there's no downside. Whereas now you might have people slow walking a bit more if you're going to lose all your stamina by trying to crouch walk. Because
That makes
yeah.
sense. That's interesting. I'll have to
Yeah,
look
have a
into
look. I
that
think it might have
because
been.
that makes sense.
It might have been when I was scavving and I had a load of stuff, because I did notice it one time and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll check it out later. And then when I tested it later on in like a controlled environment, it didn't happen, and I was like, God damn it! So I'm not sure what the threshold is.
Maybe by the time we go and test it, they'll have already changed it. It'll be something completely new.
Oh God, please no! Please leave. Please leave the vector intact by the time my video comes out tomorrow. Like, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. Please stop changing everything. Oh my goodness. It's good. Change is good. Embrace it. The game's changing, and hopefully for the better.
Adapt and overcome.
Indeed.
Cool. Any closing thoughts or anything else?
Having a good time still. It's a good wipe. I like it. Good. It's fun. I want to play more. I think about it all day. I'm addicted.
Gotta get that Tarkov grind in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The hideout can only satisfy someone for so long.
Yeah. You can only collect so many Bitcoins when you have to put them to use.
Exactly.
All that rubles.
Exactly. That's it. How about you? Any closing thoughts on the changes?
Just keep them coming, honestly. I love it when they shift things up, when it's a good shift,
Yeah, it's interesting. It keeps us interested as well, like looking at new stuff. So
I tried the AS Val and it didn't feel busted like it used to. So I mean, obviously the ammo is better. Like, I think they nerfed the gun in the ground. So
yeah,
I think it's fine. People might just be overreacting, but
yeah. Just like please quickly make the just randomly buff the pen on the Val so no one notices the vector.
Too funny,
yeah. In the meanwhile, I'm going to continue using the vector in every raid. Anytime there's not a gun requirement on my quest, that baby's coming out.
Yeah, dude, I shredded a guy on Shoreline. He had like Defender, and I just shot him straight in the thorax. And I broke glass, and when he was sprinting, running, his character like jumped midair because I do that too. Sometimes you'll be playing, and then you'll get scared, and you're like, and hit your jump key,
I did that once.
So he just got shredded in place. But I just absolutely just like.
That's great. Honestly, I jumped once in this wipe properly when I was doing delivery from the past in factory, and I got shot at in the delivery room and like managed to jump up because I was like, oh God, because this guy like shot me down from the little thing on the ground. I was like scared out of my mind. Even now, especially early wipe, it's just like, because you don't have anything, right? So you're like the fear is there. You're like, I really want this to work. I really want to be able to move on to the next quest. Anyway, it's been a good time. Yeah, as usual. Sure. I'm glad we've got so much stuff to talk about. Honestly, it's great. It's really, really good.
Yeah. This will be up on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor if you missed part of the show. But otherwise, dude, thanks for coming on again, man.
No props. It's always good. And have fun, everybody. And I'll catch you all around soon.